Hey friends, Nathan here. We're back with another commander reveal for the new Bloomburrow precons that are coming out in August. My name is Nathan, this is the Salty Productions YouTube channel, and today we are taking a look at Hazel of the Rootbloom. Before we get into the discussion of where we can brew around Hazel, if you like this video, leave a like on it, and if you want to continue to watch this sort of content, then feel free to subscribe. I make videos like this on the regular. So Hazel of the Rootbloom is a 4-mana Golgari commander with 3/5 power and toughness. It is a squirrel druid, and it can tap, pay 2 life, and tap X untapped tokens you control to add X mana in any combination of colors. At the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If that token is a squirrel, instead create 2 tokens that are copies of it. Now, the immediate comparison with Hazel is to compare it to Chatterfang Squirrel General, which I think is a completely fair comparison. This is competing with a rather powerful commander for the Squirrel tribal slot, especially in Golgari colors. However, Hazel has a little bit more of a focus on big mana, and often I think we want to be creating tokens and then casting Hazel in order to tap for a bunch of mana, whereas Chatterfang wants to come out first so that it can amplify the token generation of your squirrel tokens. With the second triggered ability, this leaves a little bit of room as well to mess with some populate shenanigans, which I will cover in just a little bit. But immediately when we jump into what would a Hazel deck look like outside of a precon environment, your immediate reaction is Squirrel Tribal. And so some great classic Squirrel Tribal pieces such as Chitter Spitter, Nut Collector, and Chatterstorm will take you a long way in these types of decks. And with black, you also have a lot of the aristocrats type of payoffs, such as Zulabor Cutthroat and various pinger type of effects if you want to sacrifice all of those tokens. The odd thing though is that Chatterfang will do this job better and more efficiently, so I'm a little bit hesitant to recommend Hazel as an aristocrats commander just because Chatterfang just does that better. However, we do now have another option for Squirrel Tribal. One other way you can take this deck is to basically just spam out as many treasures as possible and run the classic treasure payoffs. So Black Market Connections is going to be a windmill slam into this deck because it can create a ton of treasures and a ton of changeling creatures, which count as squirrels. In addition, you have just your generic treasure makers such as Tireless Provisioner or Old Gnawbone. And then on the way in and out, we can get pings off with Mirkwood Bats. The tricky thing as well, let's actually bring up our good buddy Hazel of the Rootbloom here. So he does say that we have to pay 2 life. I don't think that's a huge deal in Commander, although you might want to run some incidental life gain. And I think something like Exsanguinate or perhaps a Grey Merchant of Asphodel would help to mitigate that life loss off of its activated ability. But I think ultimately the big mana payoffs for Hazel, taking advantage of all of these treasure tokens, will probably be the Exsanguinate type of effects or the Torment of Hailfire type of effects if you're going for generic finishers. One other way that I brewed around this commander is to use Populate, which I think is an interesting strategy in Golgari, although it is not the correct colors. I think if you want to be very efficient with the Populate strategy, I'd probably look towards Naya colors if you want to do this a lot better. However, you can do certain shenanigans with like Giant Adaphage or Rampaging Balos, which make giant tokens, and then you can double them with things like Second Harvest, and then Full Flowering allows you to just populate a crap load of times, and especially if we are rocking a lot of treasure generation, then Full Flowering we can probably power up quite a bit. So that is sort of a few ways that I figured that we might be able to brew around Hazel. And one other synergy that I figured is worth mentioning to get the 2 extra triggers off of that end step trigger is to play a Maskwood Nexus in your deck, which will turn all of your creature spells into squirrels. This is a little bit of a win more type of card, I think, in this particular deck if you're going down the Squirrel Tribal route, because we generally just want to be spamming out squirrels, and while this card isn't threatening per se, I don't know that it's worth spending 4 mana to make everything squirrels to get that extra squirrel trigger, but I thought it was worth mentioning as a possible synergy piece. So what are my thoughts on Hazel of the Rootbloom? To be honest, I think this commander is just in a very awkward spot because we already have Chatterfang. I think that it's a different take on Squirrel Tribal because now we have a giant mana generator that can be in the command zone. However, I don't think it's particularly powerful, and I think you'll probably see this more at the casual tables, and I think there's not a lot of avenues to brew around just given what this commander is trying to do. However, I do really like the art. The art is great, and I think that Bloomburrow is going to have a lot to offer in the art department. And then one other thing to mention too is that it does have 5 toughness, so you know it's a decent blocker for 4 mana. I mean, 5 toughness won't get you that far later in the game past like turn 5 or 6, but it is nice to at least have a bigger body on Hazel, and if you wanted to run certain sack outlets like Greater Good or something like that, or Life's Legacy, if you wanted to play more into the sacrifice type of strategies, it does have 3 power to at least be able to draw some cards off of those type of effects. So that is Hazel of the Rootbloom, everybody. If I missed something glaring or obvious, let me know down in the comments if you have any other ideas to brew on this commander. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and subscribe for more content like this, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one.